Hey everybody, this is TJR hanging out with Superfan.
Hey everybody.
And of course the green guy's here too. And every boomer's favorite music magazine, Rolling Stone, is at it again. A few short years ago, they updated their list of the top 500 albums of all time, which when it was first released several years ago, it fell under a lot of scrutiny. There was a lot of accusations and anger about it just containing, a lot of white boomer rock, dad rock, and not paying attention to newer genres of music. And so when they updated it, they invited a cross-section of music industry professionals, songwriters, recording artists, music producers, recording engineers, across the spectrum, different age groups, different ethnicities. And so the updated list a few years ago was quite different. And there were a lot of newer and younger artists in the list. Hip hop was just as prominent now as classic rock. This, of course, pissed off the boomers, which is my generation, pissed off them an awful lot. A lot of them saying things like, "You can't tell me that this album is better than Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon." And, well, Rolling Stone did tell you. But it's just their opinion. In fact, it's not even their opinion. It's the collected opinion. It was the collected opinion of all these different people, music writers, artists, all of them that voted that in, And I didn't necessarily agree with all their choices on that list, but, I don't need Rolling Stone to justify my opinions. I'm secure in my own opinions. My opinions don't always coincide with Rolling Stone. But what's good about a list like the one they published and like the one we're going to discuss today is that it gives you a chance to hear about other types of music that you may not have thought about. Albums and artists you may not have thought about. That's the good thing about it. And of course, they did it again a year later, a year or so ago, they did it again with the top 500 songs of all time, where they updated that list too. And so this year, they have published a list. I don't think they've ever done this one before, but it's called the 50 Greatest Concept Albums of All Time. And I, of course, am always intrigued by the idea of a concept album. Just the act of doing it, whether you succeed or not, to me shows a sense, what's the word I'm looking for? A sense of striving to do something greater.
Storytelling, cohesiveness.
Yeah, it's just the fact that you even strived to do it. I think, I give artists points just for trying to do it, because it can't be easy. It's enough to just write really good songs. It's another thing to write a whole album of songs where it's telling you a story or it's tied to a theme.
Yeah.
I think, I think there's something to be said for that. Now, I've always been kind of enamored with concept albums. I've never asked you this, Superfan, but I get the feeling that I've never sensed that you're that into concept albums.
If the music is good, I'll listen to an album. It doesn't have to be a concept album. I think that was kind of more of a 70s thing.
Mm-hmm.
They still happen, but I think it was something that kind of
took shape in the classic rock era.
Yeah, and became a thing in the 70s. It started with, I guess, kind of Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah, it's a loose concept album, but it was a concept album. But I think it really...
Or Magical Mystery Tour.
I think where it really hit was with The Who's Tommy. Calling it a rock opera, which Pete Townsend said it wasn't, but it was called a rock opera. But I think that's where you really had this strong conceptual work, within the format of a rock album. And so anyways, though, back when I did reacted to the top 500 albums of all time, I only discussed the top 50 albums, and I went into it blind. I did no research. I went into it blind to see what albums I would recognize, what albums I wouldn't. I knew going in that there'd probably be a number of albums, a good number that I wouldn't recognize because Rolling Stone is into hip hop. I don't follow hip hop. I figured there'd be a lot of those that I wouldn't recognize. I should have said that ahead of time. I didn't, and I got a lot of flack. People who trolled me and criticized me for
now
not.
They're going to have an opportunity to troll me.
They're going to have an opportunity to troll you and me. But after that, I said, okay. When I looked at the top 500 songs, and of course just did the last 50, I said, look, don't follow hip hop. So there's going to be stuff that I'm not going to know. You're just going to have to live with the fact that I don't follow this stuff. You know, we all have different tastes.
And you can't listen to everything that's out there. Yeah,
I know a lot of people, when I did the album one, the first 6 or 7 albums were hip hop, so I didn't know them. So I said, okay, I don't know this one, I don't know this one. And of course that came off really bad, and it came off really funny, I have to admit. But there were people who reacted before I finished the video, because I ended up knowing more than half of them. And they said, you know, this guy doesn't know anything about music, you know. But they didn't watch the whole video. They just rushed to judgment, which is what people do on the internet.
And they rushed to judgment. Yeah, you may be a little too, because you didn't know everything.
Yeah.
But it's impossible to listen to every
Yeah, it's impossible.
album.
You know, someone said to me, even after I explained it, because I followed up the video, someone said, you still should have done some research. That would have been dishonest if I'd done research, because the whole point was to react without knowing what I was going to see. You know, and
this isn't one of those videos where you get the shocked faces and the people saying, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
"Oh my God!"
Yeah.
It's obvious that they've listened to the song before. It's not real. It's fake.
Yeah. Anyways, though, so we're this time it's only 50 albums, so we're going to try to look through these here, see which ones we know, which ones we don't know, comment on them. See if the ones we don't know intrigue us, and see what happens here. So here we go. We're gonna start here with the number 50 album, and what I'm doing here is I'm on my iPad and we're screen mirroring on our TV so we can both look at them here. So at number 50, Styx, Kilroy was here. I'm gonna read the concept. Midwestern progressive rock band responds to the rightward shift in U.S. politics and paranoia about rock lyrics, with a record about a future society where rock and roll is outlawed. I remember being in high school when this album came out. I remember this album being really disliked at the time.
I remember Domo Origato, Mr. Roboto.
I remember being tremendously annoyed with that song.
I remember being tremendously annoyed by that song too.
And I remember being tremendously annoyed with Too Much Time on My Hands, which was another song off that album.
I agree.
Were you working in the record store at that time?
You were in high school.
Okay, you weren't working in the record store at that point. Okay. But yeah, I remember this album really not being well liked by rock fans at the time. I've never listened to the whole thing for that reason. Maybe I should give it another chance. But yeah, I just remember being really annoyed with those songs.
Yeah, the radio hits we heard, that's kind of it.
Yeah. Number 49, The Roots, Undone. And let's read the concept here. The concept, the life story of a drug dealer told from death to birth. Now, I've said I don't follow hip hop, but I do have one Roots album in my collection. This is not one of them, but I do have one in my collection that I rather like. I've never heard of this album. The idea is intriguing, though. Because I have heard a Roots album that I like, I would probably at least give this one a chance and check it out. And of course, the Roots, they're an amazing band.
Yeah.
I mean, they prove that night after night. They're an amazing band.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay, here's one that we both know. I don't even have to ask you about this one. Number 48, XTC, Skylarking. Let me read the concept. A life cycle of an album, taking the listener through the seasons, sex, love, domesticity, death, and ending with a sacrificial bonfire. Of course, we both love this album.
This is an amazing album. And the thing is, it has an interesting history, too.
Uh-huh.
Because of the song Dear God.
Yes.
It was re-released, and one of the original songs was taken out and replaced with Dear God.
Originally, Dear God was not on the album, but because of the tremendous impact that song had when it came out, the album was re-released with that song.
Yeah, that song was a B-side.
Yeah.
And it got some radio airplay here in Southern California on K-Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And it went viral, so to speak.
It caused a lot of outrage, that song. But that song aside, this album is, in my opinion, a masterpiece.
It is. And it doesn't matter. The songs are kind of... I think the song that they took out that was the original single off the album was a weaker song than Dear God.
Uh-huh. I'm not even familiar with what that song is because I only know the album. Huh?
It was called Grass.
Oh, okay. No, I think Grass was on there.
Was it?
Yeah, Fields of Grass. No, that's on the... They left that on there, so they didn't take it away. But this is a great album. It's got a strong Beatles influence, in my opinion.
Well, that's kind of...
I know, that's part of Andy Partridge's whole thing, is that he makes no bones about the Beatles influence in his music. And he does a great job with it. In fact, I made a video that went really viral called 4 Songs That Sound Like the Beatles, and one of them was the song The Loving off of the XTC album Oranges and Lemons. And so that's number 48. Highly recommended. So now we're going to get into some territory here where I don't think I know this. I don't know if you know it.
No.
Number 47, The Avalanches, Since I Left You. The concept: a young man tries to follow a girl around the world, only to be left with memories of her and the sounds he encounters on his journey. So you've never heard of this, right?
No.
Neither have I. Do you want me to read a little bit about what's more of it here? Because they have more here. That's the thing about this list. You can read the concept and then you can find out more about it, about the group and everything, and see if it intrigues you more. It says here, the execution. The Avalanches reportedly abandoned the concept early in production, but traces of it still guide them, particularly with the first few cuts and the classic title track, I don't know, 2 Hearts in 3/4 Time. Don't you have to be like a real popular song to be classic? I don't know. It sounds like they abandoned this concept.
But the template of it was still there.
Yeah, I don't know. To me...
Well, maybe that's why it's at number 47 rather than number 3.
Yeah, to me that feels like they abandoned the concept and it's not really a concept album. But let's move on. Number 46, Marina and the Diamonds, Electric Heart. I should have been giving the years on these. I didn't, I forgot. But this one's 2012. The concept: pastel fictional portraits of hyper-feminine American archetypes. I've never heard of this album. Have you?
No.
Okay. Do you want me to read more?
Sure.
At the peak of Tumblr, Marina, hopefully I say this right, Diamandis, created an electro-pop cult classic. We don't follow electro-pop, so maybe that's why we don't know. On it, she portrays cynical archetypes of American womanhood, a suburban housewife, a heartbroken teen, a homewrecker, and a celebrity-seeking beauty queen. And there's more here. So I don't know. Kind of interesting. I don't know if I would follow up on this one.
Yeah, I don't know that I would want to.
I know this one. I'm sure you know this next one, but you probably have never listened to it. But I have listened to it.
Not by choice.
Not by choice, anyways. Number 45, Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime from 1988. I've heard this album. It's a really good album. I've always known it to be a concept album. That reminds me, getting back to XTC, it never occurred to me that was a concept album.
It did not, no.
Yeah, I guess there is sort of a concept to it, but if it is, it's a loose one. Anyways, let's get back to Queensryche.
Once again, very like XTC.
Yeah. The concept, Operation Mindcrime. A heroin addict named Nikki takes on the wicked demagogue, Dr. X, falls in love with a prostitute, and loses his memory ability to love. So, yeah, I like this album. It's a good album, a good metal album, and I was always aware that it was a concept album, although I don't think I ever really, fully invested myself into the concept. I just enjoyed the album. There are some concept albums where I followed the story from start to finish every time I listen. And let's see here. We got next... number 44. I know this one, and you know it because of your association with me. Drive-By Truckers' Southern Rock Opera from 2001. This was the album that introduced me to the Drive-By Truckers, and I've been a fan ever since. I'll read the concept here. The concept: Three-guitar rock band from Athens, Georgia, meditates on the duality of the Southern thang. They spell it out, Thang, and how to square loving the region's culture with its violent racial history and regressive politics. And yeah, this was a double CD album. I thought this album was great. It made me a fan, and I've gotten all their albums since. Great band.
It just that description of the concept makes me want to listen to it a little more closely.
Yeah, you should.
Because I experienced that personally.
In your own personal life, yeah. Because you've spent some time living in the South.
Yeah.
You've probably heard some of it here and there when I've been listening to it, but I don't know if you ever paid close attention. So yeah.
Well, I've asked you. We've discussed some of the songs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 43, J Balvin, Colores from 2020. I don't know this album. I'm assuming you don't either.
No.
I've never seen it in your collection. It's
very
new.
Happy.
Yeah, it's got a lot of sunflower happy faces on it. The concept, a sonic representation of Balvin's moods and emotions through primary colors. Shall I read more?
No.
Okay, we'll pass this one up. And
maybe great, but
okay. Does it say what kind of music it is? Let me just take a quick look here. It says he has a pop Perio signature sound.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I don't understand what that means. Number 42, Halsey, If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power from 2021. Very recent album. I know, I've heard of this artist. I've heard of this album.
Yeah.
I've seen this cover. I don't remember this cover having, bare boobs on it.
Probably because they put a sticker over it.
Probably so, yeah.
Maybe put a baby over it.
This is where I want to do my my butthead impersonation. Anyways.
Or you do your mom.
Oh yeah. No, my mom would be saying she needs to show a little more modesty. I was raised in a very strict Roman Catholic conservative family. But let me read the concept here. A cinematic meditation on childbirth, motherhood, and the Madonna whore complex, written during Halsey's first pregnancy. I'm intrigued by the idea behind this, I have to admit. I've never listened to her as far as I know. It describes the album as industrial and emo rock inflected. Fourth album is what it says. So maybe I'd like this. I don't know. I'd be curious to check it out.
The production team is interesting too.
Yeah, it says here produced by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So that right there, I just caught that too after you said it. I was looking here. So yeah, that sounds kind of interesting. Moving on here. Okay. One of my favorites. Number 41, Elton John, Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy from 1975. Probably my favorite Elton John album. And I know that in his autobiography, Elton talks about this album as being artistically one of his best achievements in his opinion. And I agree with him. I'll read the concept. Elton and his longtime lyricist Bernie Taupin look back on their early years before the nonstop hit parade arrived. And that describes it perfectly. You've, of course, heard this, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, plenty of times. I think it's a great album. I love it, yeah. Here's one I don't know, and I'm pretty sure you don't know it either, but let's check it out here. The Hold Steady, Separation Sunday from 2005. And I'll read the concept. Young punk kids in the Midwest get messed up on drugs, sex, booze, and enough Catholic guilt to fill a cathedral. Well, I can certainly identify with that last part. I've never heard of this, and I've never heard of the group. Have you?
No.
Okay. And let's see here. Let me see if anything else catches my eye about it here in the description. It mentions Springsteen-style drama and Killebrew-sized guitar riffs. I might like this. Who knows? Let's see. What do we got next here? Number 39. Tony Braxton and Babyface. Love, Marriage, and Divorce, 2014. The concept. A chronicle of a relationship from first kiss to final settlement. Now, I know who Tony Braxton is. I know who Babyface is. I don't follow the music. But I never knew they recorded this or released this. I never heard of this.
No.
Kind of interesting to think that they did this.
Yeah.
I'm kind of intrigued a little bit.
You're going to go out and listen to it?
I might. I don't know. You never know. That's the whole point of doing this. I'm kind of curious about the Halsey one now. That one kind of intrigues me. I might actually, the more I think about it, because I'm just kind of absorbing this, I might check out this one, Love, Marriage, and Divorce. At least give it listen to the first couple of tracks and just see. Number 38, The Mountain Goats by Tallahassee from 2002. The concept, a modern Southern Gothic about a married couple drinking themselves to death. I'm in. I'm at least going to try it. That's such a effed up dark theme. Let me read a little bit more here. The Mountain Goats' John Darnielle, hopefully I said that right, has published 3 acclaimed novels and written several great concept albums. But his finest literary achievement is Tallahassee, about a marriage drowning in the swamps of Florida and rivers of booze. With just his acoustic guitar and some spare accompaniment, he tells the story with gut-wrenching emotional detail in the songs. And then there's more. I'm intrigued with that one. I assume you don't know this one.
No, not familiar at all.
Neither was I. Number 37, this is from my teenage years. Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare from 1975. The concept, a teenager named Stephen finds himself trapped in his nightmares, encountering hungry black widow spiders, necrophiliacs, and Vincent Price before a rude awakening and a happy ending. And I, of course, first got a hold of this album in the 70s, and I have enjoyed it ever since.
Did it to you?
Say what? Yeah, my sister gave it to me, actually. She only got it for the song Only Women Bleed and decided she didn't like the album. She only liked that song. And she gave it to me. And or maybe I borrowed it from her and never gave it back. But I loved the album. I love its the theatricality of it. It was produced by Bob Ezrin, who was one of the first rock producers I became aware of. I would notice then he also produced The Wall, Kiss's Destroyer album, and he had this theatrical flair. Everything he worked on had this sense of theatricality to it, which I really liked when combined with rock music. And let's see here, moving on. Number 36, Raphael Sadiq, Jimmy Lee from 2019. The concept, the R&B auteur looks at addiction, mass incarceration, racism, and mental illness through the prism of his lived experience. Now, I know who Raphael Sadiq is. I have one of his albums, and I love it. It's called Stone Rollin'. Killer effing album. And he's one of those artists, though. I discovered the one album. I loved it. But then, for a couple years, he didn't seem to do anything else. And I kind of lost track of him. I was not aware that he made this album. This came out in 2019. It wasn't that long ago. Yeah, there was a period there where after Stone Rollin', he just did nothing. I kept waiting for him to do something else. And then I guess I lost interest. So I guess it's always important to keep putting out stuff so that people stay interested in you. But now that I know about this is a definite one. I'm going to listen to this because I liked Stone Rollin' so much that I'm going to check out this album. There's no way I'm not going to. Let's see here. Number 35, The Magnetic Fields, 69 Love Songs. 69. From 1999. I'm sorry. It's just the Beavis and Butthead in me. He said 69. Now, I don't know about this album, but I do know this group. I just only recently became familiar with the Magnetic Fields because of the album Quickies, which I picked up last year, or maybe it was the year before during COVID. Loved that album. It made my list of top albums of that year. So there's a good chance I'm going to check this one out. I didn't read the concept. What exactly is a love song? The Stephen Sondheim of indie pop goes in search of the elusive answer to that question in this 3 CD magnum opus. Holy cow, 3 CDs. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to need to take it slow on that one.
Yeah.
Well,
here. Aren't his songs fairly short, though?
Well, Quickies, that's what Quickies was all about. It was an album with really short songs that were like a minute and a half, 69? Maybe. That doesn't mean this is filled with quick songs. That doesn't mean this one is. 3 CDs.
3 CDs, but yeah. 69 love songs.
Oh, maybe there are 69 songs on it. I don't know. That wouldn't surprise me. I hadn't thought of that. But that wouldn't surprise me if that's what happened.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay, well, maybe you're right. I still would be curious because I really like Quickies. I thought it was a really good album. So here we go. Number 34, Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son from 1988. And of course I know who Iron Maiden is, but I never really got that into them. People are always kind of surprised by that. They're like, you like Black Sabbath and you like Kiss, but you're not into Iron Maiden? What's wrong with you, dude?
I sold a lot of copies. That's all I can say.
Yeah, when you were working at the record store. And so the concept. The headbangers imagine a child who possesses strange powers, thanks to numerology, and a big family that refuses condoms. Okay. All right, well.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be my first Maiden album. Maybe this will be my maiden voyage with them. Who knows? And so let's move on here. Number 33, Parliament. Let me look at this title here. This is tough. Can you read this? Funkintelleci? How would you pronounce that? Funkintelleci versus the Placebo Syndrome.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go with that. 1977, the concept. Funky aliens do battle with non-dancing earthlings. Dancing wins. Back when I was like a young teenager, junior high school or so, and I was first getting into popular music, one of my cousins was really into Funkadelic. And he played it for me, and I just didn't understand it back then. But of course, as I've grown older, soul, R&B music, and especially funk music has become so much a part of what I listen to the point where a while back I said, I haven't been in a band in a long time, but if I was going to be like in a band, I would want to be in a soul band, a cover. Especially if it was a cover band, I'd want to be in a soul band, where we all like have matching suits or something like that. I don't know. But where we're doing, all the really hot, cool, funk covers and that type of thing. Because I love playing funk rhythm on guitar. I just think it's fun to play. But anyways, though, and as it's funny because I've been lately thinking to myself, you should go listen to these Funkadelic albums. You probably just avoided them because you responded to them so poorly when you were a kid.
Yeah.
But you probably look at them totally different now as an adult. So yeah, something I should try to get back into. Here we go. Number 32, Millie Jackson, Caught Up. I've never heard of this artist or this album. I assume you haven't either.
No.
1974. The concept. The soul story of a love triangle narrated by two fiery women mixed up with the same double-timing man. Never heard of this. I guess some kind of lost classic maybe? I don't know. Or maybe I'm just showing how musically unaware I am. Sounds cool.
Well, you were in elementary school.
Well, that's true.
And probably so was I.
Oh, yeah, well, you would. Yeah, definitely you were. If I was, you certainly were. Number 31, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Ghost Teen from 2019. This is a recent one. I know who Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds are, but I've never heard of this album.
Yeah.
The concept. A parent loses a child and then loses himself in grief. Then the child calls back to him from heaven. Okay, interesting. I love this album artwork. Yeah. This is amazing, this album artwork. I'm surprised I've never noticed this before, just for the artwork alone. It's awesome looking. I'm going to read this here because I saw this here. It's caught my eye. For years, Nick Cave was goth rock's poet laureate, crooning macabre vignettes on albums like Your Funeral, My Trial, and the cheeky concept LP, Murder Ballads. Then his 15-year-old son Arthur died, and he viewed death differently. Wow. That I didn't know about him.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so, I don't know. Maybe check that one out. I don't know. I've definitely got some personal family history that's similar. I don't know if I'd want to really listen to that. Number 30, Marvin Gaye, Hear My Dear from 1978. I've never heard of this album. Have you? I've never heard of this. 1978. Hear My Dear?
No. I'm sure I've probably heard songs off of it, but I don't recall that artwork.
The concept: Gaye gets married, gets divorced, gets hit with a big legal bill, and chronicles it all in a 14-track song cycle. This sounds like that Babyface.
Tony Braxton.
Yeah, it sounds like that, actually. Maybe that's where they got the idea. I got to read further on this one. Hold on a sec here. As part of his divorce settlement with his first wife, Anna, Gaye agreed to give her the advance from his next album as well as the first large chunk of its royalties. Hence the title, Here, My Dear. Okay, I'm just going to read ahead here to this part here. The grooves are largely relaxed, fluid, and bereft of the glistening melodies Gaye could conjure. Maybe that's why we haven't heard it. But knowing that his ex-wife would benefit the most financially, maybe he didn't want to generate a hit.
I'm guessing, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's why we've never heard it.
It's probably a revenge album.
Yeah, maybe it's kind of funny that it makes this list because it sounded like they're saying it's not that good. That's kind of what it sounds like. They're saying it's really not that good and he didn't want it to be good because he didn't want his ex-wife to benefit.
But it is Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, but oh well. Anyways, let's move on. What's going on better be on this list. I'm saying that right now. I'm going to talk like a boomer right now. Number 29, Jasmine Sullivan. How do you say this word? Hawks?
Ho.
Ho?
Ho.
Really? You say it that way? That's how you say it? Ho? Hotels. Okay.
It's a southern thing.
Yeah, okay. Hotels from 2021. This is a new album. The concept: numerous women, including Sullivan, discuss the joys of pains in love and sex. Okay?
Like I had, when I lived in New Orleans, one of the principals in my school was named Miss Bro. Mm-hmm. And it was spelled B-R-U, or...
B-R-E-A-U-X?
Yeah.
Okay, so ho. Okay,
yeah,
hotels.
Bro, ho.
Got it.
That's
okay.
how I know.
Oh, okay. It's a southern thing.
I'm a poet and I don't know it.
Yeah, it's a southern thing.
Well, it's actually kind of a French thing.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, New Orleans, there is certainly that French influence.
Yeah. A Cajun thing.
Yeah. So, moving on, number 28, the Kinks. The Kinks are the Village Green Preservation Society. I mean, I'm not a Kinks fan. I just know them for their hits, but I've never heard of this album.
No.
Yeah, me neither. The concept: England used to be awesome, now it sucks.
Well, we've been to England since 1968.
Yeah.
And it didn't suck.
It didn't suck when we went. Moving on. Okay, here we go. Number 27. We're almost to the halfway point. Husker Du. It's Husker Du, right? Not Husker Du.
Yeah.
That's what I've always thought. It was Husker Du. I've heard it pronounced different ways.
It's because it's got that little umlaut thing. I think that's called an umlaut.
Oh, okay. Well, Zen Arcade is the name of the album from 1984. The concept: a punk rock Tommy for the 80s. I've never heard this album. I know who they are, but I've never heard the album. Have you?
Worked in a record store.
Okay. You probably have, but don't remember, is what you're saying.
I've heard it. It didn't click.
Okay.
I guess.
All right.
Maybe.
We'll move on. Number 26, Willie Nelson. Red-Headed Stranger from 1975. Back in 75, country music, zero interest in. Zero interest. I would not have cared less.
I know the name of the album. I've seen the album artwork. I worked in a record store.
Yeah. I mean, since then, you and I have seen Willie Nelson perform live.
And it was awesome.
It was awesome. And I was surprised at how many songs he's written that I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. The concept: a man kills his wife and her lover and takes it on the lam. What else would you expect from Willie Nelson? I would expect nothing less.
Yeah, it's
a cowboy album.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Might be fun. Might be fun.
It's
Might be
an
cool.
album.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the word I was looking for.
Okay, what do we got here? Number 25.
BTS, Maps of the Soul.
BTS. Wait a minute. This is the Backstreet Boys from Korea, is it?
Yeah.
Are they from Korea?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure. Really? Map of the Soul 7, BTS, 2020. They did a concept album?
Huh.
The concept. In their 7th year as a team, the 7 members of BTS borrow terms from Jungian philosophy, persona, shadow, and ego, to paint a complete portrait of their real selves. So...
It's very introspective.
I kind of immediately want to be biased about this. Did they write this, or did a team of songwriters write it for them, is the first thing I would think of. I know that's really cynical because I'm a boomer, but that's the first thing I think of. Did they actually write this album? Did they actually create this album? Or did a team of songwriters do it for them? I'm sure you're going to go look it up.
It's a good question.
It is a good question, and it deserves to be asked.
How really introspective can it be if they didn't write the song?
Yeah. Because, I mean, they're a boy band. That's all they're like this boy band.
And
I'm going to read this. Here. Before BTS, few pop idols had attempted to express the anxiety that comes with maintaining such a visible public persona that's usually not faithful to the true self. Okay? I don't know.
described as deeply personal
Who's describing it, though?
by BTS.
Oh, by them. Oh, sure.
Hang on.
Pete Townsend had the decency to say Tommy is not a rock opera, even though everybody was calling it that. I don't know. This is probably going to make a lot of boomers mad. I'm not mad, though, but I'm just kind of like wrapping my brain around it. On the one hand, of course, I kind of think this brings up a point here. I remember when it was the top 500 albums, Lemonade was on the list by Beyonce, which is an album that I liked. It's the first Beyonce album I ever listened to and really liked and bought. But someone mentioned that albums like that are too young to be on these kinds of lists. That an album should at least be 10 years old before it gets that kind of consideration. And I said I kind of agree with that. And there have been a lot of albums we've seen on this list that are really recent. But then again, I've got some concept albums that I've liked that are really recent too. In fact, the recent one by the Tedeschi Trucks Band, I Am the Moon, which is a 4-album concept album, I really loved it. But I would have to say it's still too new. It needs to be at least 5 to 10 years old before you start considering it for lists like this. Because history kind of has to be the judge. So you could just say that, Rolling Stone is just trying to appeal to the kids here. But then if they don't appeal to the kids, they're not relevant anymore.
Here's the thing.
What did you find out? Did they write it or someone else? Or
It's...
I'm picturing like 10 songwriters in a room.
We have the songs, there's the choreography, and it took a lot of other elements.
Okay, that doesn't inspire confidence in me.
Songwriting credits from Halsey on Boy With Love.
Oh, okay.
Make It Right was co-written by Ed Sheeran.
Okay, so other popular singer-songwriters got involved with the writing.
And that may be a language transitional thing. I'm willing to give them that benefit of the doubt.
True, you're right. I shouldn't, you're right. If you find out more, let me know, but let's move on from it right now. Number 24, Randy Newman, Good Old Boys, from 1974. The concept, long before the term MAGA existed, the master troubadour, storyteller, gets inside the heads and hearts of rednecks in the modern South. This would have been the early 70s. I've never heard of this album, but then again, it was 1974. I was pretty young. I was not into popular music at that point.
And I was younger still.
Yeah, so I can't blame me for not knowing this one. But I do, Randy Newman's an amazing songwriter. I mean, there's no getting around that. And I do have one of his albums. But yeah, I would be curious to check this one out just because of his strength as a songwriter. Number 23, an album that I really need to get around to. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis, 1974. But again, 1974, I was still not into popular music. Though growing up, I would hear about this album from time to time.
And I have heard this album, and I remember hearing this album.
Did you like it?
Yeah, this was a Peter Gabriel era.
So you like this one because you like Peter Gabriel.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It's
so
pretty awesome.
the concept, a teenage Puerto Rican grifter. No, I'm sorry, I said it wrong.
Graffiti.
A teenage Puerto Rican graffiti writer tumbles into an alternative dimension full of slippermen and, if I say it right, La Mia. I would hear about this album from time to time. I didn't know you knew it. You should have.
I don't know it that well.
Uh-huh.
I didn't run out and buy it, but I'm not a huge fan of later Genesis, but...
This era of Genesis, more so.
Yeah.
Because Peter Gabriel was in it, yeah.
Yeah.
And it has his style.
It's a little out there.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
I've heard the title track, and I know I like the title track. Number 22, Donna Summer, Once Upon a Time from 1977. The concept, a fantastical disco fairy tale where a young woman is saved by the beat and goes on to live happily ever after. 1977, wasn't into disco, didn't care. Don't know if I would like it if I heard it now. Did you ever hear this?
I didn't hear the whole album.
Yeah.
There were a few roller skating rink songs on there, so I heard those.
Okay. Did you like those songs?
Well, roller skating rink was a great time in my life, and
okay.
I like those songs.
Happy memories. Okay. Number 21, we both love this album. We both know this. Brian Wilson, Smile from 2004. The concept, a kaleidoscope tour of American pop tinged with the whimsical humor that was nearly 40 years. I'm sorry, tinged with whimsical humor that was nearly 40 years in the making. We both know this album. We both love this album.
And yeah, we had the opportunity
to sit in a room, a small theater at a Grammy event where Brian Wilson was there in person being interviewed.
Yeah, he wasn't expected to be there.
But he showed up.
It was regarding it was the Beautiful Dreamer documentary.
Which is about the making of Smile. That documentary, which is a great documentary. You should see it.
It was about the making of Pet Sounds, kind of.
It was also about the making of Smile, too.
And Van Dyke Parks was there.
Yeah.
And that was an awesome evening. And I think that because we had so much more insight from the Q&A and...
Yeah. And from him being there answering questions...
And it wasn't easy. It was rough that evening. Anytime a couple people asked him personal questions about his family, he deferred the answer to the producer of the film. Yeah. But when it came to the music questions,
he was ready to talk.
He was ready to talk, and it was awesome.
It was awesome, yeah. But yeah, after that, once we heard Smile, we both loved it. And of course, I had known about Smile as being one of those greatest albums that never was, that never happened. The Beach Boys, it was, Brian Wilson was working on the album with the Beach Boys, and it got scrapped. He had a nervous breakdown, basically.
Yeah, it was, Pet Sounds was born out of Smile.
No, Pet Sounds came first. Smile was going to come after.
Okay.
Yeah, it was going to come after. It was going to be the follow-up. But
I thought that they salvaged Pet Sound, or they
somewhat salvaged Smile. They had some of the tracks released in an album called Smiley Smile, but it wasn't the album that was intended. And I don't know all the history about that, but there was an album that did because it did have some of the songs from Smile on there, like Heroes and Villains, but it wasn't the album it was supposed to be. The album Smile never happened until, of course, when Brian Wilson finished it on his own as a solo artist in 2004. But great album. And we'll move on here. Number 20, an album that both of us know and both of us like. Janet Jackson, Control, from 1986. The concept, the youngest member of the Jackson clan takes ownership of her career, image, music, sexuality, and life. And of course, I used to call this one of my guilty pleasure albums. I don't believe in guilty pleasures anymore as far as music. You shouldn't feel guilty about any music you listen to. You should just enjoy it. That's how I feel about it. But at one time, I considered this one of my guilty pleasures. But I remember you were surprised to find this album in my collection. When you first went through my collection. And but you admitted even then that you thought it was a really solid album.
Yeah, no. The song Control was awesome.
Oh, yeah, the song Control is absolutely awesome. A lot of great songs. What Have You Done For Me Lately? A lot of great songs.
Nasty.
Yeah, Nasty. Solid album. Really good, though. Okay, good. Here we go. I'm glad. Number 19, Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, 1971. The Concept, a State of the Nation address from a genius ready to break the Motown mold. This is an awesome album. It's sonically a masterpiece.
Yes, it is.
Sonically amazing. And I initially got into this album, not the last time that Rolling Stone updated their top 500 albums, but several years prior when they released it. This album was in the top 10. And I remember thinking to myself, if this album is in the top 10, I should give it a try. Because I knew the hit singles. I listened to it. My reaction was, where has this album been all my life? And, I've loved it ever since. When Rolling Stone updated their list, this album was at number 1 of the top 500 albums of all time. And of course, all the boomers lost their minds. You can't tell me this is better than Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Again, well, Rolling Stone told you it was. But you don't have to listen to them. It's just their opinion. And anyways, though, I had no problem. Because to me, this is sonically as great an album as Dark Side of the Moon or Sgt. Pepper. They're different experiences. But yeah, so I'm glad to see this here. I don't have to say anything else about this album. I know you like it too. Number 18, The Who, Quadrophenia, 1973. Definitely this album has to be on the list. It's well-deserved. The Who has had 2 amazing concept albums. This is one of them. The Concept, I'll read this for those of you who aren't familiar with it. A British teenager in 1965 struggles operatically with an existential identity crisis. You know this album, I'm sure. At least through me, you know it.
Yeah, I know it through the movie.
There you go. There's the movie. I didn't care for the movie. I really didn't care for it, but maybe I should see it again. It's been decades. Maybe I'll think of it differently.
I just remember it for Sting.
Oh, okay, Sting. Well, of course. Of course you remember it for Sting. Women, what are you going to do? Anyways, though, I will say one thing. I was just sorry to see Love, Rain, or Me, one of Pete Townshend's most amazing songs, get used to hawk soda pop a couple decades back. I don't remember if it was 7-Up or Sprite, but I try to forget that. Okay, let's move on. Number 17, Jackson Browne, Running on Empty from 1977. The Concept, life on the classic rock road in the 70s, actually recorded on tour for added authenticity, and mood. I know the hit Running on Empty. I always liked that song.
Yeah,
I had no clue this was a concept album. I've never heard the album. I've never been into Jackson Browne that much, but I liked his hits. I'm kind of curious now, actually. Just hearing that it is a concept album, I'd be curious to know. Okay, number 16. Sly and the Family Stone, There's a Riot Going On from 1971. So, let me read the concept. I want to say something about this album. A deeply funky guided tour of the death of the 60s dream. And this album was, of course, before my time. It was before I really started getting into music. But then there are albums like Tommy and Sgt. Pepper and stuff that I learned about while I was getting into music in the 70s. But for some reason, this album never crossed my radar during that time. And in fact, it's only been in the last couple of years that this album has really been coming to my attention as an album I need to hear. And I've been saying to myself for the last couple of years now, I really need to hear this album. I really need to hear it. And this just brings it more into my forefront. I've got to, when this is done, I'm saving this to favorites on Tidal, and I'm going to go listen to it. But yeah, I've heard this is a great album. Have you heard any of it?
I'm sure I have.
Okay.
But I don't know the album as an album.
Okay, moving on. Okay, here we go. Number 15. I talked about her earlier. Beyonce, Lemonade from 2016. Yeah. All right, when this made the greatest albums list, I was like, okay, I like this album. I think it's a pretty good album. Don't know if it belongs on the top 500 albums of all time because it's such a young album. And I mean, I guess it's kind of like, I kind of understand where Rolling Stone's coming from. They have to appeal to the younger audience or they become irrelevant. Of course, the boomers all think they're irrelevant because they do appeal to the younger audience. They forget.
But they're also pulling people who are part of the younger audience.
Yeah, that's right. They're pulling people who are part of the younger audience. Although I must, let me pause here. In the last 2 times they updated those lists, they've mentioned what they were pulling from. In this article here, they don't mention who they're pulling from at all. I'm assuming it's like it's been done in the past, but you never know. This time it could be just the staff at Rolling Stone. But they've got a younger staff now too. So,
Younger audience.
That's right, younger audience. If they don't appeal to a younger audience, they become irrelevant. And that's what a lot of boomers don't understand. They keep saying they're becoming irrelevant. No, they're becoming irrelevant to boomers. That's the difference. We're dying off. Sorry to have to say that. So let's read the concept. Beyonce, Lemonade. Troubled by the discovery that her husband has been unfaithful, Beyonce crafts a meditation on blackness, feminism, and power. Now, it's funny how I came across getting this album. I think I've told you the story, but I haven't said it here on YouTube. I had a friend. She's still a friend, a coworker at my work, much, 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 much younger than me, and she was really big into Beyonce. I was talking about how big I was into the Beatles, and we said to each other, tell you what, I'll make you a CD of Beatles songs, you make me a CD of Beyonce songs. And we both said we'd do that. And we did. We made each other a CD. We both listened. We both reacted and talked to each other. We both kind of said there were songs we liked, there were songs we weren't into. That was kind of our reaction. But we both listened, and it was fun. And so when Lemonade came out, I just had that experience with her. And she was excited to hear it. I turned it on Tidal, listened to it, and I said, hey, this is actually pretty darn good. I like this album. I even picked it up. I liked it. I liked it so much. And don't know if she got more into the Beatles. I have no idea. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. She and I no longer work together. But
maybe you should ping her.
I should ping her because she still works at the same place I work, but we're just in completely different areas now. But yeah, maybe I'll ping her and ask her about that. Anyways, though, moving on. Number 14, an album that I know really well and really like a lot. Radiohead Kid A from 2000. And this album was introduced to me by the guitarist who was in my band at the time. You know who I'm talking about, Eddie. And yeah, I miss him. And he introduced me to this album. I listened to this album and just thought it was brilliant. Thought it was a masterpiece. I can't say I've liked every Radiohead album, but I really like this one a lot. Yeah, I said it was right up there with like Dark Side of the Moon. But let me read. I didn't read the concept. Here we go. The concept. Some say it's about the first human clone. Okay. Others say it's about 9/11, which would not occur for 11 months. But the real concept of Kid A is being an acclaimed British band kind of sucks. Oh, wait, I read that wrong. Being an acclaimed British rock band kind of sucks. I never got that out of this album. And honestly, I don't know what it would be like to be in an acclaimed British rock band. I wouldn't mind giving that a try, though, to be honest.
You'd like to have the experience so that you can
have
some input on that?
Yeah, I'd love to have that experience, being in an acclaimed British rock band. Of course, I guess I'd have to be British. But
well, you could be in an acclaimed British rock band and we could go and live in Britain.
Yeah.
I would go to England and live.
Yeah, I would too. Okay, but anyways, great album. Glad to see it here on the list, number 14.
Speaking of which, if anybody wants to adopt us, we're open to that.
Yeah. Okay, you never know. We might get an offer. Number 13.
That's why I put it out there.
David Bowie, The Rise of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars from 1972. Of course, you and I both know this album. You and I both really like this album. I assume you really like this album.
Of course.
Yeah, I do too. I just recently picked this up, the recent half-speed mastering on vinyl. Love it. It sounds wonderful. I will read the concept, though, for those of you who may not know it. The concept: androgynous alien arrives on a doomed planet and becomes a rock star, an idea that could have also doubled as Bowie's memoir. Actually, this idea sounds like Anne Rice lifted it for her vampire book. But, yeah, I didn't know it was about an alien, but I just thought it was about the world ending and about a rock band that makes it big just as the world is ending.
But Anne Rice's book was about a vampire, not an alien.
Yeah, but it's about a vampire that becomes a rock star.
Vampires and aliens are totally different
Yeah,
things.
still, it sounds. I think she just substituted alien with vampire, and there it was. Anyways, though, then nothing's. I'm being kind of facetious here. Nothing's created in a vacuum. But yeah, great album. We both love it. Hopefully, you do too. Janelle Monae, number 12.
This is an awesome album.
The Arc Android, 2010, and I love Janelle Monae. Superfan does too, as you can tell. I think, though, you're thinking of the album Electric Lady.
Oh, you're right.
That's the one you're thinking, not this one. But this is part of that whole series. Let me read.
It is a series.
Yeah, let me read the concept here. The concept, the third installment of a futurist soul sci-fi epic inspired by German expressionist cinema. Yeah. And yeah, we first saw Janelle Monae performing live at, I think it was the Apple Music Festival.
Apple Music Festival. And
had we already listened to her prior to that?
No.
We saw her perform live and we were so blown away. And I picked up Electric.
Her performance, if you can go and find it, I'm sure it's out there.
Yeah, it should be out there. You should see
somewhere.
It. But I believe, after that, I picked up the album Electric Lady. Was it? Wait a minute. Do I have the title right? Electric Lady. Make sure of that. I think it's called Electric Lady. I don't want to confuse it with the album Electric Landlady.
Or Electric Lady.
Or Electric Lady Land. Yes. But yeah, I think it was called the Electric Lady or Electric Lady. But yeah, her albums all have this kind of sci-fi, or at least there was this trio of albums that had this sci-fi theme about robots versus humans, and fantastic funk R&B music. Great music. And love Janelle Monae. Find out about that album, but I'm going to move on here.
The Electric Lady.
The Electric Lady. Okay, I was close.
2013.
2013, okay. Number 11, The Beatles. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, 1967. I will read the concept for those of you who may not have heard it. The concept: biggest band in the world responds to career frustration by coming up with silly alter egos for their next record. That does sum it up pretty well, actually. As far as the concept, It's a loose concept album. It's not really like a strong concept album, in my opinion, but it's such a great album. And
it can be whatever it wants to be.
It can be whatever it wants to be, yeah. I'm not going to really argue about it. Yeah, one of my favorite albums of all time. And this takes us to number 10. I love this artwork, but I don't know who this is. Rosalia. Let me see how good I can pronounce this. El Malcarrer. I'm hoping I said it right.
Sounds good to me.
From 2018. The concept.
And I'm sure you're going to get some feedback on that.
I'm sure I will if I pronounce it wrong. What's the matter? You can't speak Spanish? The concept. Well, no, I wasn't raised with it. Of course not.
You're fourth generation American.
Exactly. The concept. Originally conceived as her graduate thesis at Barcelona's Catalunya College of Music, Rosalia's sophomore album is a hypnotic retelling of flamenca, a 13th century, 8,095 line novel written in, hopefully I say this right, Occitan. Hopefully I said that right. I'm intrigued by this. I have to admit, what kind of music is this here? It says it mixes R&B and hip hop with classic Spanish traditions, is what it says here.
Classic Spanish traditions, meaning flamenco music.
I would be curious about this one here. The artwork really grabs me. But yeah, I've never heard this, though. We're getting close to the end. We're in the top 10 now. Number 9, Frank Sinatra, In the Wee Small Hours, 1955. Now, Frank Sinatra, every once in a while I try listening to him and seeing if I can get into him. I never do, but I know a lot of people like him. I didn't know about a concept album. The concept: former teen idol hits 40, watches his relationship with a fellow celeb crumble, and cuts one of the finest and most depressed concept albums. Were you aware of this? I wasn't.
No idea.
Yeah. I'm going to read a little bit here. Even though the LP arrived in the late 40s, artists and labels didn't initially see the format as an outlet for cohesive statements. A few singles and filler would do. Sinatra, then in the midst of a tumultuous relationship with Ava Gardner, had other ideas. Working with producer Boyle Gilmore, hopefully I said that right, he selected some of the gloomiest and most romantically despondent songs from great American songbook writers like Cole Porter and Rodgers and Hart. Okay, so this is a covers album. I don't know if that qualifies, to be honest, because it's all covers. I get kind of where they're saying he puts them together so that it has a theme of unity, I guess. Anyways, though.
It's probably as close as he's going to get.
Yeah, I guess. But there you go, In the Wee Small Hours, number 9. And Rolling Stone says it's number 9, so there you have to accept that. Number 8, My Chemical Romance, The Black Parade from 2006. I, of course, know who My Chemical Romance is, but I've never really listened to them at any great length. So I don't know this album, The Black Parade. I will read the concept. A cancer-stricken man reflects on his life, transforming it into a stomping, thrashing piece of emo glam musical theater. Could be fun. Number 7, Boomers Rejoice. Rush, 2012. I'm sorry, not 2012. Rush, 2112 from 1976, 2012. Oh, I'm going to get some flack for that.
That's okay, you deserve it.
The concept.
Bring it.
Bring it on. The concept. In a dystopian collectivist future, a guy finds a guitar and begins to dream of a better world. But when he brings it to his society's rulers, they reject it. Okay. I've never really heard this album. I only have one Rush album, and that's Permanent Waves, which is, I think, the album that everybody has.
I don't have any Rush albums.
Oh, there you go. I have a in-law who's huge into Rush. I'm going to have to ask him about this. Let's move on. Number 6, Liz Phair, Exile in Guyville from 1993. The concept, a song-by-song response to the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street that conveniently doubles as a deconstruction of white male indie rock oppression. I know who Liz Phair is, but I didn't know that's what this album was. Did you?
Me neither.
Wow.
I think we need to listen.
Yeah, I think I do too. Hold on. Let me just read some more. Liz Phair brilliantly followed through on her attack of the male-dominated music scene, creating comebacks corresponding to each song on Exile on Main Street. Compare Rocks Off with 61, or Happy with, I can't say this. Not if I want to keep my family rating. The Rain. Okay. Sounds intriguing. I'd like to hear this now.
Well, if it was good enough for the Gilmore Girls, it's good enough for us.
There you go. Number 5, The Who, Tommy, 1969. I'm glad to see this is here. The concept.
You knew it was going to be.
Anymore, who knows? This is Rolling Stone. You don't know anymore. The concept. Murder, childhood pain, sexual abuse, and the creepy power of cults, all tackled in one of the first and most carefully plotted theme records. So yeah, Tommy's been a huge part of my life for the longest time. And I know you've heard it, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know if you like it as much as I do, but you probably heard it because you worked in a record store, and you probably, of course, have heard it plenty of times because I listened to it.
I heard it more because you listened to it and appreciate it for that.
Oh, good.
I didn't hear it so much in the record store, though.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you like it. And here we go. Number 4. This will piss off the boomers. Raekwon, Only Built for Cuban Links from 1995. The concept. 2 young hustlers on the streets of New York decide to give up criminal life right after this one big last score. I love that concept. I think I've seen that movie a couple of times, actually. I don't know who this is. Nor have I ever heard of this album. Have you?
No.
Okay. Let me read about this one. The Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah, okay, I said it right. The Wu-Tang Clan Empire's most epic, orchestrated by the RZA at the peak of his genius. Cuban Link goes for cinematic narrative like a hip-hop Goodfellas, starring Raekwon and Ghostface Killah as 2 hoods from the, I think that word is Shaolin.
Yeah.
As RZA explained, the theme of the album is 2 guys that had enough of the negative life and was ready to move on, but had one more sting to pull off. Raekwon was so into the mob concept that he planned to call the album Wu Gambinos. But that changed when the label boss got a call from a certain gentleman in the actual Gambino family. Ooh. Okay. Interesting. And now, boomers rejoice. Pink Floyd, The Wall, number 3, 1979. Of course, this is the album that got me into Pink Floyd. And I bought this album back when it came out when I was in high school. And of course, that led to all the other Pink Floyd albums. At least the whole post Syd Barrett period. I should clarify that. The Concept. A rock star loses himself in his ego and becomes a fascist drug addict who thinks his mortal enemies are his mom, wife, and grade school teacher. But it was always just himself. I like that. I like how that's summed up. That's really good. Yeah.
And it has your favorite producer as you.
Yeah, Bob Ezrin produced this, of course. And, we talked about this. I did an unboxing where I unboxed 2 recent vinyl copies that I bought, the recent remasterings of The Wall and Animals. And I said, this album sounds so different from the previous Pink Floyd albums that preceded it because Bob Ezrin really puts this whole theatrical touch. It feels like you're listening to a musical.
Yeah.
You feel that when you listen to Welcome to My Nightmare, when I listen to Destroyer, The Wall. I can almost see the theatrical production on stage when I listen to it. He just has that flair.
I know it more for the movie, but I remember hearing the songs on the radio too.
Number 2, Green Day, American Idiot from 2004. The Concept. Life in post 9/11 America as seen through the eyes of a teen slacker and his friends. This wasn't the only concept album that Green Day would do, but this is a really good album. Glad to see it's here. So now we're about to scroll up and see number 1. Are we ready? Here we go, drum roll. And number 1, let's pull it up here. Here's the cover. I don't recognize the cover. Number 1, Kendrick Lamar, Good Kid. Is this Mad City or MAAD City?
Both.
I'm guessing you say Mad City.
Mad City.
From 2012. The Concept. Lamar comes of age in Compton, encountering the city's many pleasures, as well as its ever-present threat of gang conflict and police violence. I know who Kendrick Lamar is. I don't follow hip-hop, at least not very much, so I don't know this album. We've seen Kendrick Lamar perform live on TV a couple times. I've been actually pretty impressed with his live performances. They're very conceptual. Yeah. They're very conceptual, but have not gotten into the music. I have a nephew who is, and you know who I'm talking about. He is so huge into music, and he loves vinyl, and he is as, say, into the Beatles as he's into Kendrick Lamar. And he gets this stuff. I don't. And
well, there's stuff out there that's not for you.
Well, yeah, that's true, and I'm sure
you recognize the talent.
He seems to. Yeah, I find it hard when I talk to my nephew. He seems to like almost everything. He knows so many bands and artists that I don't know. Of course, I know things that he doesn't know, but still. And he's so young, and he's gotten so into it. But yeah, he was talking to me about To Pimp a Butterfly. And he's into it. And I really need to talk to him more. Maybe he can help me understand it better.
He had your brother's record collection growing up, which is what got you into music in the first place.
True, yeah. He did have that access to that when he was a kid. But yeah, so that's number 1. That's going to piss off the boomers. You can't tell me that's better than Dark Side of the Moon. Anyways, I just thought I'd say it for you so you don't have to.
Yeah, so it's been said. Moving on,
yeah. But like I said, there's a whole generation that's come after us, and they have different taste in music, and their music is different from ours.
Different taste
exactly.
in music from our parents.
During the 70s, I didn't care about what my parents liked. I didn't care about Perry Como or Frank Sinatra or any of the music they listened to.
My parents listened to K-Joy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I didn't care about that.
Was the easy listening elevator music stations.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just different generations. Anyways, though.
Occasionally we get the Carpenters.
I'm kind of surprised that I think The Wall was the only Pink Floyd album. I mean, I realize I don't want to sound like a boomer, but Dark Side of the Moon, I think, is a greater album than The Wall. I would put that before I put The Wall in there.
I'm thinking it's because The Wall had the movie, and the movie had Bob Geldof, and
maybe, I don't know.
Not that really has anything to do.
It shouldn't have anything to do with it. No, I think...
But Bob Geldof is awesome.
Bob Geldof is awesome, I agree. But I think just, I don't know. The other Pink Floyd albums, none of them were there. No one's ever going to be happy with these kinds of lists. And if you're unhappy with this list, go put your own list on YouTube. Make a video, put your top whatever list up there so that we can all look at it and say, who the hell do you think you are? How could you dare say this album is better than that album? How come you didn't have this one on it? You must be deaf. You don't know anything about music. Go do that so that I can comment on your video. And Superfan will too. I'm just kidding.
I will.
No, go make a video. Put it out there. I mean, share this stuff. Share your thoughts. I mean, I think that's more important than getting mad at a magazine. There are albums that I feel are concept albums that never got their due, like The Hazards of Love by The Decemberists is one. Lonely Avenue by Brian Setzer is one. Concept albums that, for whatever reason, didn't capture the attention I thought they deserved, and I should do a video about those. Concept albums that deserve a bigger audience.
Yeah, and I kept a list of the albums that you want.
Oh, okay, thank you. Then I will...
listen to. Should we go through it?
Okay.
First one, Roots Undone.
Oh, okay, from this.
From this.
Okay, all right, thank you. You don't have to give it to me here, but yeah, we might do that when we're traveling.
Well, no, I'm thinking we should share it with everybody else so that they know that we're taking this list and using it as a tool to learn about albums that we weren't familiar with.
Yeah. Maybe
and there's quite a few, and I can go down the list really quick.
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
Everybody else can share their list with us.
Go for it.
We've got Roots, Undone, Halsey, If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, Tony Braxton, Babyface, Take It Back, Mountain Goats, Tallahassee, Raphael, Sadiq, Jimmy Lee, Magnetic Fields, 69 Love Songs, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Ghosteen, but I think you were kind of on the fence about that one. Genesis, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Sly and Family Stone, There's a Riot Going On, Rosalia, El Ma Carrera, Liz Phair, Exile in Guyville.
Cool, yeah, all right. So, I mean, maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't, who knows what'll happen. But I definitely am curious about all of those.
And yeah.
Okay, well, cool. Anyways, let us know what you thought. Thank you so much for hanging out. Leave your comments. Tell us what albums you thought should have been included.
Tell us what albums you're going to check out.
Yeah, tell us what albums you're going to check out. If you like these videos, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification icon. And thank you, patron supporters, for giving that extra level of support. That's why I create exclusive weekly videos for the patron supporters. If you'd like to be a patron supporter, go to patreon.com/TJR the original. And everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Grogu, you didn't say anything today.